Welcome to the study. This is Brofessor Hemlock. Today, I'm going to be focusing on AOE rotations for Mythic Plus. Now, something that we've done quite a bit of working on and trying to find out is what actually is the optimal AOE rotation in any given situation. And in my experience and testing here, I'm going to give everyone 3 different AOE rotations to focus on for Mythic Plus. Now, why 3? So, I've tested a bunch of different rotations, and I think these 3 stand out as the most effective rotations that will give you consistent high damage pressure in each of the 3 situations that they're being used in. Okay, so I kind of want to dive straight into the first one here, and this is the most common AoE rotation that we've been using for a long time. This is Rune, or, if you're going into an AP cycle, obviously we're going to be using our on-use trinket, Spark, Touch of the Magi, and then we do 5 Arcane Blasts into a Barrage, right? That is the most common AoE cycle. Now, this one really is the strongest for single target extreme pressure. So say you are in Theater of Pain, and in Theater of Pain, you're doing the Portal Guardians, or you're doing where you're on the pedestal and there's the big mob with the little 2 skeleton magi guys, right? Those situations where you need to have an extremely high amount of single target damage is where this rotation excels. It will do the biggest amount of single target damage while still dealing a considerable amount of AoE damage, okay? So we'll go into this rotation here. Now, of course, if you are using Rune or AP, this will slightly vary. I do want to note that you will always be using Rune or AP when you're doing any of these rotations. For the sake of the video, however, I will not be using Rune or AP just to demonstrate the rotation. Okay. So one of the benefits of this rotation is it is going to do a bunch of single target damage. In addition to that, you don't need to be on top of your target to apply the most damage. So you can be, depending on your haste values, which I'm running 10%, you can be certain different ranges away and still have an effective rotation. The rotation's pretty straightforward. It's Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi, 5 blasts. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Very straightforward. That would be your Touch of the Magi rotation with this burst setup. Then after that, you would go into the standard rotation or Barrage AE and repeat that cycle. This rotation will do the highest single target damage and is the most effective in specifically low target situations. We're looking at 3 or less targets, or an extreme priority target that you need to focus. When you start getting into the 5 target situation, this will actually be the lowest DPS. Okay. Now the next rotation here is going to be a full-blown AoE rotation. This will be for situations where you are at a very high pack size with no exclusive priority target. When you're looking at like the other side, when you're in Ardenweald area and there's a bunch of small mobs, there's not specifically one mob where you need to focus. The big stags, maybe that's going to be our Touch of the Magi target in this situation, but there's going to be 8 to 12 targets or even more on some polls. And in this situation, we're going to switch our rotation up to match that situation. And this is going to be our primary AoE rotation. Now, something to note with this rotation is you do want to be in melee range when you're dropping your Rune or using AP, because this rotation is going to involve Arcane Explosion. So that's an important starting point to note. So we're going to start off the rotation. Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi, 3 Arcane Explosions, Barrage, Orb, Barrage. Okay, so let's see how that would look. Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi. We got 1, 2, 3, Barrage, Orb, and Barrage again. Now right there, as you can note, at 10% haste, I fit all of that perfectly inside the Touch of the Magi window. I hit all targets, and when you have high target counts, this is going to deal an extremely large amount of AoE damage. And again, this is the optimal rotation for high targets, no priority target. One of the issues when you're dealing with large pack sizes that have a lot of small mobs most often is that you may apply Touch of the Magi and it's not going to live if you are doing any type of specific single target damage to it. So that's why we're starting off with the 3 Arcane Explosions. We're getting in a predominantly large amount of AoE where we're not single targeting a mob down. It's also, every hit is building up our Radiant Spark, as we saw, so we did increase the stacks of our Radiant Spark. We then barraged, Orb, and Barrage to exclusively fit in that damage to the end of our Touch of the Magi, and with our highest Radiant Spark counts, so we were able to maximize the damage of that Touch of the Magi, while not specifically targeting too much single target damage into one mob. And that rotation is going to be the most effective for our large packs, no priority targets. So AE, very good to use. Okay, now the final one. This is extremely complex, so I do want to note that this is the most complex version, but this will output the absolute highest damage. And I mean, it's going to put out quite a bit of damage. So the rotation here is going to be Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi, AE, Barrage, Orb, Arcane Blast, Barrage again. Okay, so we'll do the rotation live here. Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi, AE, Barrage, Orb, and Blast Barrage. And at 10% haste, you barely sneak that in, okay? And again, this is a melee range. You must be in melee range for this to be effective, because you're using Arcane Explosion. And in addition to that, with the tight haste window to making that into the Touch of the Magi, you do need to be on top of your targets to have all of that rotation fit in. One of the big benefits to this rotation is that it's great for mid-sized packs. So you're looking at anywhere between 5 and 8 targets, with one target that might be a slight priority over the others. This could be in like Halls of Atonement when you're specifically targeting the Obliterator packs. The Obliterator with, or like the Huntsman packs where they have the dogs and you want to kill that specific mob first. So those type of packs where it can be a priority target. It may not be extremely high priority, but it's something that you'd want to die first. This is also a pack like the Mists of Tyrannosaith packs after the first boss when you're in the maze. Those packs are between around 5 to 8 mobs. They do have a slight priority target with the Tenders, but it's not like specifically that high of a priority target, but they don't move, they stay in the pack, and you're going to be able to effectively deal large amounts of damage to them. One of the benefits of this rotation is it does maximize damage out of your barrages, putting them in a specific spot of the end of the Touch of the Magi, with your final blast barrage at the end is again utilizing that shatter combo that we see in the 5 blast barrage scenario. So this will be your most commonly used AoE rotation for when you're using Rune of Power or AP in a majority of situations. I would say in Mythic Plus, the most common pack size is between 5 and 8 with a slight priority target, and that is going to be the most optimal rotation for that situation. Okay. Now, the other two with your single target, again, that is used more for, of course, your single target, your boss fights, your 1 targets, or your 3 or less with a high value priority target, or the second rotation being a large pack size, no real priority target, where you're wanting to pump out as much AoE damage as possible. With all of those rotations in mind, these can be used with Rune or AP. So don't think of these rotations as just something I'm doing on my off pulls, right? I'm not just using Rune of Power to go into these rotations. If you're in any key, you're needing to use AP with these rotations. So if you were to use AP in one of these rotations, I'll demonstrate the most difficult rotation with an AP go into it here. So first, what you should always do at the end of every pack is build up to those 18 charges, making sure that when you go into this next pull, you're going to be maximizing that barrage damage. Okay, that's super important to note. So we'll bring into the damage meters here. And this is a 5-target scenario here. We have 18 stacks of our Harmony count. We're going to go into On-Use Trinket, Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi, AP, AE once, twice, Barrage, Orb, and Blast Barrage. Look at that right there. We hit 48k DPS. Wow. Absolutely monstrous damage. That's monstrous. That's huge. I don't have any food buffs. I don't have any flasks on or anything, and we just hit that kind of damage. And in addition to that, we did not crit our main barrage. Our main barrage non-crit for 46,000. If this was a crit, you would see damage figures, we're talking easily north of 50k DPS. Very, very easily north of 50k DPS. And this is in a 5-target situation. So you could even do more with more targets. So we had our Touch of the Magi explode for 50,000, which is nothing spectacular. I've seen, 70,000 plus Touch of the Magi explosions, 100,000 Touch of the Magi explosions, especially when you get those barrage crits. Okay. That's where we're going to wrap up the video today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions about either of these rotations, they're all 3 very good rotations that you can use in different situations in Mythic Plus. Be sure to think before you use those CDs. What's my pack size? How many targets are going to be in it, basically? What is the priority target, if there is a priority target? Should I be doing maximum AOE damage? Or should I be focusing on a primary target to kill this pack? And you're going to perform a lot better in your Mythic Plus key runs. Good luck, everyone.